I want to see if I can also video it. Can you see what I'm doing while I'm doing this?
Yeah, no, take your time. I know, like, you're always involved in the process, so I talk a little bit more than Aya when I paint, but Aya's really good at just focusing on what she's doing. I think that's great.
Well, I can only do one thing at a time. That's my problem.
It's
And
actually not a bad thing. I think, look, I think sometimes people multitask too much, and I've seen this actually happen where it was kind of embarrassing too, because these people, like, they thought that they were doing something, and it turned out they did it completely wrong because they were doing something else when they did it. And I'm like, sometimes you need to just stop and do one thing.
yeah, well, life is kind of weird that way. It makes us try to do everything all at once.
I think modern life does, but I feel like in the past, maybe just if you had the one thing that you like, I don't want to be a niche, but I just don't want to always be like rushing around, and I refuse to do that. I can't. I mean, yeah, sometimes you have to, but I'm not gonna do that just for fun. That doesn't sound fun to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like to concentrate on things, and
That's good.
yeah, it's sort of it's my weakness and my strength at the same time, you know?
Well, it doesn't have to be a weakness. I don't think it's a weakness. Unless, like, you want to be, like, some sort of, like, I don't know, socialite VIP or something, then, yeah, maybe those people don't. But
Well, you know, you don't have to be a socialite VIP. Even people who work in a store, um, have to pay attention to more than one thing.
that's kind of true. Yeah, I guess, like, oh, yes, that's true. Well, yeah, every time we go shopping, there's always somebody, like, oh, loss prevention is chasing them. I guess, like, they've changed the laws in California where they kind of know that they get away with it. It's really weird. Like, I don't know how they get away with it, but it's like they're not too worried. I don't know what's going on. It's just scary.
Well, right now, the employers are afraid. Um, so they tell their employees not to engage in any kind of fighting with the public. So the public knows they can get away with a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I feel bad though because, like, for just people working in that retail environment. But I did see a lot of really cool shoes. The funny thing is, I like to look at shoes like Bo,
Uh-huh.
but I actually own a few pairs. Like, I don't want to wear millions of shoes. Sometimes I kind of am just curious, like, oh, what are all the different shoes?
Mm-hmm. It makes
So
sense.
that was fun.
Yeah.
I did buy a really pretty red dress. I'm gonna review it on my other channel.
Oh.
Yeah, because I had a thought about what I'm doing. Like, you don't worry, you don't have to respond. I know you're busy painting, but I've decided what I kind of want to do with my other channels, because I know a lot of the hair channel, like, people, they do like a lot of DIY recipes, and I've never done hair that way, and I always kind of liked showing fashion. So I was kind of thinking, because you shared that one channel, I don't remember her name, but remember that one lady?
Yang Haiying. Her name is Yang Haiying.
Yes. So that kind of inspired me. I thought, I've done a few before, but I kind of want to do more, like just showing like my kind of fashion ideas and style.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be kind of like, interestingly, like as I was posting more of that seems to be kind of taking off for trendy, like people are talking about. And I think it might kind of just not exactly coalesce, but it might just be because I guess they were saying recently a lot of people are going back to the office. So I don't know if that's why those type of videos are trending more, or maybe just because it's spring. I don't know.
Well, it could be. But people have always been interested in fashion, I think.
This is true. Yeah.
So now people have a chance to do their own modeling. So Yang Haiying, she's an older lady and all that, but she seems to really enjoy modeling her clothes for the audience.
See, I don't even think about, I know like she's a little bit older, but like her energy is just so good that I like it. Like, I feel like if you have a good energy and you feel vibrant, like, I don't think you have to look like the 22-year. I just like what she posts. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I like it too, and Bo is a big fan. Big fan of hers.
Yeah, I kind of like that you recommended her channel to me because I started watching some of her older videos and she has some painting videos. She has a lot of really interesting little videos. I was like, oh, I kind of like her channel.
Yeah. Yeah, I did tell you about her painting videos. Like I learned from her that you can use your name stamp, you know, from Chinese culture to actually, you know, sign your painting. So if it's a very small painting where you can't really do a real signature, that's one way to do it.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember you had said that. I just hadn't really watched any of her videos though.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of fun, like to finally go over there and just kind of check her out.
Yeah, she's pretty good, and she's interesting on a number of different levels.
And one thing I thought was really neat is she's been on YouTube like almost since the beginning because I was an early user of YouTube, although I wasn't seriously uploading, I guess, in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of early videos on this channel, not my other channel, this channel actually, starting in 2008. But I can't say they were like tutorial or anything like that. Some of them were though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had that one video, you know, that was like 15,000 views. At the time, I thought that was a lot. And it was just how to build a model of, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the diorama, right?
Yeah, that exactly. See, I can't think of a word like that when I'm
it's
painting.
Okay, you can paint. Don't worry. I don't want to make you talk too much. You're good.
But yeah, that one was very popular because a lot of parents had to help their kids with that. It was just something they did for school.
Well, that's pretty neat, though. I like it.
I don't know whether I'm in the way or can you see what I'm painting or...
I mean, I do see it taking up shape. It's pretty cool. I mean, if there's ever a time like when we do like a joint live stream, I could invite your second camera if you want, like, and then it could be there too. We could do that next time.
Okay, yeah, right now my second camera is also filming this, so...
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure like if you wanted to do that or not.
Yeah, we could do that some other time.
If you want, but if it's filming, then we don't need to. It was just a thought. I'm kind of filming upside down for the audience, but that's because I thought I'd bring the easel out, but I didn't get it out.
Mm.
I'm still here. I just have to go rinse my hands. The only thing I like all the colors that come with these paint kits, but the way that people suggest opening them, I've been trying that. I don't like it because every time I go to open one, I end up getting paint on my fingers. So I almost want to just go back to my old method of using a knife to open them because using the lid just is very messy. I don't like it.
Yeah, actually, I never used to buy the when I was doing acrylic, I never used to buy that many different paints. What
I
I
know you're good at mixing, like you're very good at just mixing the different colors, which is so cool.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. But right now, I actually do have pre-mixed watercolor that I'm using.
But I think the cool thing about watercolor is a lot of those kits come like that, and it's a little bit different where you don't have to open it, right? Is it just like a palette where you add water to it,
Yeah,
or how?
that is what it is. It's a pellet. You add water to it.
I kind of like that.
I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a lot of thunder right now over here.
I mean, I hear a little bit of ticking, but I thought maybe it was just like maybe I don't know, a sound outside. That's thunder. That's cool. Wow. It doesn't pick up very loudly though.
Well, right now it's you might be hearing something else like a background sound, but right now it's not doing it. Just a moment ago it thundered.
Oh, okay, okay. I know. I have like pipes that make noise, but they told me they said, "Oh, it's next door." Like it's definitely not your pipes. It's next door. Well, yeah, that's what they say every time I tell like the dishwasher pipe leaks again. Hopefully nothing like that's gonna happen, but we'll see.
You know what's really funny in this show is they're so poor, but their house is so clean and they don't have any maintenance issues. Don't you think that's odd?
That's not very realistic. Like, there's always maintenance issues everywhere, especially if you, even in newer buildings, but anything like it's weird. Like, I think just even like really nice, like more expensive houses, they have maintenance issues all the time, and it's pipes like all the time. Plumbers are always busy. I just know there's always maintenance issues. I mean, in an ideal world, that'd be great, but that's just not very realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like almost a fantasy world of these two girls living alone and everything is okay except that they owe money. That's all.
Yeah,
But
I think no, that's not realistic.
yeah, because you would think there would be other issues living alone for, children.
Yeah, I would think so, but it also it kind of reminds me of that Indian book. It had a different name. It was Q&A as a book, but then it became Slumdog Millionaire for the movie, where when he turns 18, he's on a question and answer show to win $1 million. But as a kid, he like grows up all by himself because his parents die, and like in the book, it's a little bit more realistic, maybe, but still like a little like a stretch of the imagination. But in the movie, it's totally unrealistic because like how would like 8-year olds be roaming around the countryside and end up I don't know. It wasn't just the way they made it. Like let me say, like
Yeah,
poor.
they make it sound like there's no such thing as child protective services and that you could just do anything. Your only problem is your parents might not be taking care of you. That's all. It's just
Yeah, that's just not realistic. Yeah, I can imagine, especially nowadays.
Yeah, I think that the problems that they brought up would be the least of those children's problems in real life, you know?
For sure, right? I mean, I guess it's just fantasy. It's also kind of like, I know every time I watch the Magnificent Century shows, I know they're not super realistic and it's kind of suspension of a belief like, oh, are they really going to be wearing like these like dresses that look like something out of a fairy tale? But it's pretty to watch. I'm not saying like it's historically accurate, but sometimes you have to suspend belief because some of it just looks like a fairy tale. It's not, yeah, they wore silks and things like that, but the cut and the way it's designed is more of a like a modern fairy tale type fantasy, and I'm like, it's not like super accurate.
Yeah, I don't usually focus that much on the clothes. You know, for instance, in this thing, she goes to a school where everybody has a beautiful uniform, you know, a beautiful school uniform. And she has one as well. And yeah, she does fall down and she has to wear tights that have a hole in them twice, you know, one day and the next day. But other than that, she's got this beautiful, clean uniform, you know?
Yeah, that sounds like, oh, okay, so no parents, but the laundry is just perfectly done, and um,
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no problem with laundry. Like
yeah,
even grown-ups have problems with laundry, you know.
yeah, they do. Like, I used to think this was funny, but some people, when I was in college, I didn't even know this was a thing. But this girl told me, well, I just don't want to do laundry, so sometimes I would just keep buying new clothes and throwing my clothes away. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, but I guess she
Wow.
did it because, like, that's pretty weird. But I don't know. Like,
Well, she must have had a trust fund to be able to afford to do that.
I used to think that too, but nowadays, like, you could. I'm not saying it's a good thing to do, and it still costs more money than just washing your clothes. But I don't know. Like some people go on those websites and they're getting like big bags. I'm not saying they're good quality clothing either. For like, I don't know if it. There's just a lot of interesting stuff. Like I still think like you are wasting more money, of course, and it's weird. But I don't know about why they're doing that, but it's just kind of funny. I'm just like, really? Why don't you just do your laundry? Like, but yeah, these shows are so much like. And then another thing about that one show I was watching, Magnificent Century, I keep reminding myself, but like the non-related males aren't supposed to be in the harem. But from the very beginning, like his number one vizier, Abraham Pasha's like wandering around the harem and arguing with the women, like that wouldn't have even happened.
Well, it would if he were castrated.
Yeah, but he wasn't. Like he was the vizier, like the eunuchs, yes, but they just like there's certain characters like that seem to get around that rule, but then other characters they have to meet through the Latisse, like there's
I think
basically
it depends on whether he's seen as a sexual threat to, um, you know, to the main guy or not.
maybe that could be a point, but I don't think in real life like he was in the harem. The reason that I'm thinking this is because actually the harem wasn't even at um, to Coffee Palace until the 1600s when Murad moved it there. It used to be a half an hour away, like walking distance, and you would have to go by a carriage to get there if you were. And usually the Sultan would come visit. It's just like there's certain things that aren't very realistic, but in the show it's all realistic. Like they're like, oh, it's just like this happened, and no, that's not. I don't know. It's why they do it that way, but a lot of people are very upset about it, I guess, because it's not very historically accurate.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a break for a minute. I'll put this, I'll put it up where you know, my technique is that I don't think I have to create the outline first. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect first.
Yeah.
So I have the right to correct things as I go along.
No, you can definitely do that. A lot of people do that. I if I'm gonna paint like kind of like that, the only thing I really like to paint is just like landscapes. But I think it's a great way to do painting. It's more like the alla prima style. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just that it wouldn't, you know, if I had to be perfect, I would never get anything done, you know, because I'm not perfect. So I have to forgive myself for not getting it right the first time.
I mean, there's very few painters that are like truly like if we talk about what some of the masters were doing, like even the really good masters who may have been really good painting colorists, there is like that theory that they were using the camera obscura to like get those really precise, like exact dimensions. Like, have you heard about that?
Yeah, you had mentioned it to me before, so
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it can't be vetted, but they said, what was the point of the camera obscura? And they said, well, it basically, if you think about it, it was like the modern version of a projector. And
Yeah.
then, like that whole documentary, and I read several different websites and different like people that are saying this is what they did. But some people are like, oh no, they didn't. But they said if you look at some of the paintings from that period, they're just so precise they look like a photograph. Unless those artists were just that good. You know, so
well, some of them might actually have been that good and others not. But I mean, even if they use the camera obscura just to create an image that they then looked at and didn't trace, you know, that still could have helped them. And I'm using a photograph. I'm looking at a photograph when I'm painting. So in that sense, it's the same thing, don't you think?
I think so. I mean, it doesn't really bother me like how they did it. I still think even at the end, like even if okay, they had to like somehow use the camera obscura and they had kind of like projected it in a way. I don't think that's really cheating because they still have to be good at using the paint to create the color variations and the shading, and that still takes technique and style.
Yeah, but I actually am interested in doing freehand, you know.
Yeah. No, I think freehand's really good, but I'm just saying, even if the people weren't completely freehand, it doesn't really. I mean, I don't want to do what they did, like if they did do that, but it doesn't bother me. Like
no,
some people
it
are
doesn't
so
bother me.
bothered by it. I'm like, I don't really care. Like,
Of course not. I mean, there are all sorts of ways to come up with things, and even photography is an art, can be an art.
of course, like no, I love like that was the thing I kind of loved about photography is you can use like photo editing programs and kind of. You know what's interesting though is I kind of used to play around and do certain things just with getpaint.net that now you can do on your phone, but I still really love getpaint.net like just for making thumbnails. Like I guess I'm just weird. Like I tried all those other sites, but I still love getpaint. And I even tried GIMP this morning. I don't like GIMP. I guess I just got so used to using getpaint.net. Maybe that's the one I just know how to use so well that I still really enjoy it.
Is that the same as PaintNet?
It's PaintNet, but the exact website is getpaint.net, and I always call it PaintNet, but then that doesn't come up. So if you look on its actual URL, it's getpaint.net, but they call themselves PaintNet.
Okay. Well, the program itself on my computer is called PaintNet.
That's what they call themselves. That's exactly what it's called on my computer. But that's my favorite one. I love it, and I know how to do so many different things with it. Actually, like when I look up things, I know how to trace around something, delete the back. Like there's a lot of things you can actually do with it, and I almost want to argue I think it's better than some of those like Canva. And I know everybody loves Canva these days, but you have to pay for a lot of the features on that. And I just kind of like Get Paint because you can do what you want and it's free if you just take the time to look into what you want to do.
Right. I use it.
I love it. I mean, I still love it. And because that was willing to try other things, and I'm like, I don't know. The other ones are just like, you have to pay for the features, and I'm not going to pay.
Yeah.
There's a good free site that does the same things.
Right.
Better for me. For my needs, anyway.
Yeah, I understand. Makes sense. I do whatever I can to not spend a lot of money on any of these things.
Well, I don't see the point because, well, I mean, I guess some people claim, and Sword probably uses it. Some people use like with that Pro editor, I think, right? Isn't there a certain one that some of the people are using on YouTube, like the bigger YouTubers?
You mean something Cut Pro?
Oh yeah, the Final Cut Pro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an editor for video editing. Yes.
But that's another example. Like I use a little bit of a cheaper one, and I have thought about buying that one, but it's about $300. I just haven't seen the point yet.
No, I'm not saying you should buy it, but what you could do is use they'll give you a certain amount of time to just play with it.
Okay, I mean, I could try. I've never tried that one yet. Did you ever use their free?
No, I didn't, but Sword was able to use it a really long time for free.
Okay.
So
maybe that's something I should look into, because I was thinking I have to re-download my video editor too, with all the problems I'm having computer-wise, because the laptop's still working, but it has very limited space. And then the fun part is the big computer is the one that I always use for video editing and storage. I had to completely reset it, and I had to lose a lot of files. So it was having it. I would have had to buy disk drives to back it up. I didn't, because I saved a lot of stuff on Google, and I don't know. I just didn't want to bother with that. It wasn't really good stuff anyway. But I think I'm gonna have to eventually get a new computer.
yeah, it's a shame they make us buy the same products over and over and over again. You'd think if you spent money for a really good computer, it should serve you for the rest of your life.
You would think so. Actually, the funny thing though is some people say, like, I've been using it for 7 years, which I know doesn't sound like a long time, but in the world of like people buying a new computer like every 2 or 3, like that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure I want to buy an Apple computer though. I thought about it, but they're just so pricey.
Yeah, I know. I don't have an Apple. Sword does.
I just probably gonna get a Dell HP, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if I can prolong its life a little bit longer. So has there been anything new happening in the news? I haven't really. The only thing I saw was they were doing the flag at half-mast for, I guess, people that died from, this pandemic. But I haven't seen anything lately. Is there anything going on that's interesting lately?
Well, I heard things are really bad in Shanghai for anybody who's got caught in the dragnet of possibly having COVID, or even if your neighbors had COVID.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I heard about that. I didn't know if that had finally ended or not. But
no, it's worse. It's worse. They're all being kept, If they live in a nice neighborhood, then people will bring them food. But if they don't, they're starving.
See, this makes no sense, though, because, wow, that's just like people are going to die of, like, being kept in their house rather than.
Yeah, exactly. But, they just hate the rich, I think. Shanghai had an enormous amount of wealth. And, for a long time we thought that they were letting them, basically be capitalist,
That's what it seemed. But then, I mean, this new regime it seems like they're going back. And then they're rewriting the narrative saying, oh, look how successful communism was, and it was never successful. And they're trying to like rewrite like the Soviet Union. I'm like, no, the Soviet Union failed, and you guys have failed too. You just are a dictatorship, and you force people through tyranny. It doesn't mean it's a success.
Yeah.
I mean, I did hear one thing, and was kind of creepy. I haven't looked into it yet, but it was just a video I kind of was listening to last night by Russell Brand. He was saying something about how they're deciding that they're going to have like some centralized like health guidelines that all countries like down to the local level are going to have enforced upon them. I thought that was kind of strange. I'm like, what?
Well, I think that's probably the UN plan all along. As you know, they want to unify the world, and as long as technology keeps making the world smaller and smaller, that's going to be more and more possible. And
yeah, that's a good point. There were some weird comments too on just a YouTube video. It was kind of strange, like just out of place. So I watch a lot of things about the Ottoman Empire, and somebody was just saying that they liked Ataturk. And then somebody made a comment about India, and then somebody came along and said, well, you're not allowed to say that I shouldn't comment on another country like Turkey's policy, because have you not heard about diplomacy? And now everybody in the world can comment on any country's affairs because everything is becoming more centralized. And I thought, that was a strange comment the way it read.
yeah, well, anybody can comment about anything. You don't have to be an expert on the topic to just comment, obviously.
No, for sure, yes. That I totally get, but it almost seemed like it was kind of like some sort of person that's maybe behind some sort of these policies that was making that statement, because it didn't sound like it was just a regular person just like sharing their opinion. The way it was like worded was just kind of like strange.
Yeah, I
like
understand.
Pro centralized technology, technocratic world. It was kind of weird. I don't know. It was just a weird comment.
Yeah, there are a lot of weird comments out there. You have to take most of them with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it's the internet. I guess like that was another reason I kind of take breaks from it. Well, I know you're busy, but too. I don't know. I never really seem excited when I tune back, and I'm like, oh, we're at it again, guys. Hot pages is getting interesting too. Like I thought that they kind of were like fading away, but I looked at their website today, and they're like, oh, you can learn this and that, but the ad for it was just kind of strange. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been there in a very long time because, they promised us that if we wrote evergreen content that, that it would.
Yeah, they didn't know what they were doing.
But, I think other sites are paying people to rewrite content that they had that was perfectly good because they think that if it's totally rewritten, that it will get picked up better by Google.
I guess, but to me, like, okay, I feel like it's all kind of a game because a lot of sites do that. Like, okay, they first start with the hub pages variation where, oh, you write evergreen content, it'll be for here forever. Like 20 years from now, people will be searching. And yes, I do have like certain hubs that still get views, but I don't really make much money from that because Google Ads pay almost nothing anymore. Like,
right. Of course.
You don't get money from it at all. So even if it does show up in the search engines, and then the weirdest thing would, like, okay, just as a joke, I said, what would happen? I don't know why I got this idea, like, ha ha ha. What if I microwaved like some sort of vegetarian burger and just see what happens? Because there's a lot of oil content on it, and people were always like so anti-oil, and I just thought it was funny, and I microwaved it and I ate it, and it was like kind of like a joke video. It wasn't even serious, and that was just getting lots of views on my website for like years, and now that's kind of died off, and now another one's picking up, but I make like 2 cents a month or something.
Yeah.
All those hundreds of views.
Yeah. You cannot live on that.
No, but it used used to be when like Hub Pages, when I first joined, like in 2007-8, I was making like the first few months like $35 a day. It was pretty good, like in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it went down like considerably after that, but in the beginning I was like, oh. And then they're like, we need to regulate Google.
Well, they didn't want people to be able to make a living like that.
No, they did not. But I get it. They're trying to rewrite. I think that's not going to last either, because right now it's also kind of like, oh, I see what they're doing. Like some of these websites, like, oh, you have to buy a membership. And some people might for a while, and then they'll rank in the search engine because people will search and find that, and they might pay. But I think 5 years from now, that might not be a thing either. So I don't know.
Well, it's, you know, the membership should be bought by the people who are reading, not the people who are writing.
Well, it will be for the people that are reading, though. But what I'm saying is you'll have to keep getting a new audience. I just don't think it's going to last like some of these sites, like any site really. Like 5 years from now, what site's going to be the big site? That's the question.
Well, no way to know, is there?
Not really.
So what do you think? Did she look skinnier than she did before?
Yeah, you brought, like, I think the way you made her hair, it looks very, like, nice. I like it. You did a good job.
Well, thank you. I don't think I can do much better than this right now, so I'm going to go ahead and sign it.
Okay, sounds good.
Then I'll look at what you're doing, because I couldn't look at yours when I was doing mine.
No, that's okay. I've just been kind of looking at mine too, so I couldn't really look either. So I do like the progress, and the finishing results really good.
Okay.